We are back with Brunch, a taste of Tobago. Now, I explained so many times that one of the reasons that I love doing this show is because of the people that I get to meet, the conversations that I get to have. And we speak on so many things from education to art to culture, history, politics. Not too much politics, just a little bit. We delve in, and just pull all of those conversations out. And my first guest is no different. I have actually been trying to get him on the brunch set for a very long time. And I was so excited when it finally happened. And so, dancer, choreographer, artist, educator, mentor, because I know of so many people that he has been so instrumental in their development. And that's a wonderful thing. Also, community based projects, community activist, you name it. And my first guest has done it. I welcome to the brunch set, without further ado, Mr. Shakeil Jones.
Good morning, Janelle.
Good morning. I am so pleased to have you here. So how are you doing today? Let's start there.
I'm fine. So first of all, let me say good morning to Tobago and thank you for having me. I'm doing well, and yourself?
I am blessed. I'm not even going to find anything that I need to be angry about or aggravated about or agitated about, because I feel that I need to stay in this energy and frequency. And that's one of the things that I love about you. I love your positive energy. From the first time I saw you performing, you were small, got a tiny little tot, and you were wearing I even remember what you were wearing. It was blue, what was that? A blue top, some type of costuming.
Right.
It was blue top, blue bottom, and you guys were doing like a production. We had just started working with culture. We were interns, and we went to Pembroke Anglican, one of the schools that we went to, on a first trip. And that is where I remember you. And I never forgot.
Yeah.
I never forgot. And so some of the things that stand out about you, because I love reading snippets of your bio, because it's like an electric movement artist who is innovatively merging the past and the present to create the future. And this is something that speaks volumes, because you are willing to not forget the past. So you still incorporate the wisdom of the elders, but you also incorporate the young people's energy.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it is. From the moment I got involved in the performing arts, dance in particular, I have always been mentored by older persons: Karen Berkeley Charles, Sylvan Gregg, Sylvard Gregg, Elvis Rajman. Those were the people, Mr. Berkeley, Wendell Berkeley, those were the people that poured into me. So ever since I got involved, I've always learned to develop and maintain a sense of gratitude, even in my own endeavors as I advance throughout my career and learning new things. It has always been, how am I able to learn the things that I was taught, but also be innovative and creative so that I could inspire the present and future generations to do the same. So gratitude has always been a part of my practice. It has always informed the work that I do, and that is because that is what was poured into me.
And I love the way you say poured in, because you have so many persons who were placed on your journey. I have to say that they were placed there because each person would have instilled something in you, some spirit, some type of energy, some type of positivity, some type of knowledge.
Yeah.
And this is something that sometimes we lose sight of. And we get on this bandwagon that, okay, I made it and I'm going to do this, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go every which way. And we don't take the time to acknowledge that you had help along the way. And this is something that I want to see change. Our young people are so innovative. We have so much to say, but we have to bridge that gap between the elders and the young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way I see it is that they are the roots, and I am the tree. I am an extension of their hard work, and it even goes beyond those persons that would have poured into me. When we look at what we celebrate here in Tobago, or heritage, or culture, or lineage, or ancestry, these are persons who would have came with this culture from Africa. They would have done the work. They would have labored just to ensure that we inherited something that is valuable, something that we could realize that this is where we came from, and they did all the groundwork. So they are the roots, and I see myself as a tree. And if I am able to continue to do the work and bear the fruit that they intended, then I am doing the right thing. I am living their purpose.
Definitely.
And then I'm also inspiring those to come on board and do the same thing.
And dance and movement is so natural to you. Because let me just say, I have seen you, I have been privileged, and it is indeed a privilege watching you perform, putting your hands to something. And I know this because, good morning to Pembroke, the Pembroke community. Because I know they're watching, or they're watching to see what Shakeil going to say.
All right.
Yes. So good morning to Pembroke. But Shakeil, with education, because such a big chunk of where you are today stems from education. So tell me a little bit about school. Tell me a little bit about tertiary. Let's start there, and then we go into what that was like being from this side of the world.
Well, before I even get into education, because you mentioned dance, I was born into a family of dancers.
Right.
So my mom, my aunts dance, my uncles, they play drum. So culture was a huge part of me. But as I grew, I always taught to myself that I'm like very inquisitive. I like to learn, I like to see, I like to understand things. And I treated dance as a hobby. So when I got my undergraduate degree at the University of the West Indies, it was actually in international relations. And then upon completing that, I got the opportunity to do my Masters of Arts in Dance at Florida State University. Right. And it said to me, it's like, no matter how much you try to run from something or treat it, something small, if this is your passion, if this is your purpose, if this is your calling, you can do as much as you want, but you end up right in that thing. And I went off to Florida and I began learning. And my experience there during the degree was a lot of realizations. Not that the information was new, it's just that I didn't know I was already doing this thing. So what it presented to me was an opportunity to take the information, expand on the knowledge that I already have, but it also positioned me to do a lot of cultural sharing. Because coming from this side of the world, they were not experienced to the type of dancing, the type of movement, the type of language our body speaks when we move. And it was the perfect opportunity to share with my professors, who are all notable individuals within the field, what this side of the world can do. So all of my assignments were based on traditional folk. All of my presentations were based on traditional culture, folk art, African history. I cemented who I was as a Caribbean dance artist within the work of my academics. And after a 2-year period, I graduated with my degree, but during that time I also had the opportunity to visit many different conferences and workshops where I was able to advance the Caribbean dance position, letting people know that, where I come from, the work that we do as practitioners doesn't just deal with performance, but there's a lot of retention, there's a lot of value in terms of the ancestry, the lineage, the connection, the community that we are able to provide. And it is very, very different than what we see in the West, and not to belittle, but I hold great value in the work that I do because it is much bigger than I am, and it represents such the essence of who we are as Caribbean people, who we are as Afro-Caribbean people. And in that regard, I just continue to cherish the work that I do and always use it to be the voice to inspire and to lead and charge change.
Yeah, and lead and to charge change. That is such a wonderful way to put it, because I was just having this conversation yesterday That is to tell you, yesterday I was having this conversation about your identity. It becomes like your blueprint when you travel, when you leave these shores. It is something that you have to take so much more seriously. We are constantly compared to, are you from Grenada? Are you from Jamaica? Are you from, and then and there you realize, oh, wait a minute. Let me take this a little more seriously because I am now an ambassador and I have to cement my place as a Tobagonian,
Yep.
as a Tobagonian son or daughter.
Yeah.
And this is something that happens when you travel. Traveling and education combined really, really does this and speaks to this. But what was it like for you with your colleagues? Did you experience any type of culture shock or any type of energy coming towards you that may or may not have been positive?
So the culture shock was there for sure. It was my first time going to America. I've never had the experience before. So even being in a space where everything is just so fast paced, on the go, where perspectives are not taken lightly, where we have to be very much culturally aware of how sensitive persons can be,
Yes.
also to treat with the existing insensitivities within a space. And then I went to what was called a PWI, a predominantly white
Right.
institution. So even my place as a black person in the institution, for me it meant that I needed to, not conform, but attract and let them see that I earned my place within this space. In terms of negativity, I wouldn't say that there was any negativity that was
Right.
like solely directed towards me, but at the same time, it just called for me to be constantly aware. Even with my colleagues, thank God and thankfully, they were very open, they were very receptive,
Right.
they were very, engaging, accommodative.
Accommodating, yes.
And I would just take the minute to speak about my chair of my master's thesis committee, Miss
Right.
Tiffany Reinhardt, who had not a clue about what
it.
I wanted to present for my master's thesis, but at the same time, she took the responsibility as somebody not knowing and went on the journey with me and was very open, very receptive, and was able to present ideas and perspectives that I could read into that would assist me in making my ideas clearer. So, it wasn't a bad experience, but at the end of the day, you spoke to identity. And I think once you show up and you stand resolute in who you are, it gives people a chance to look, to listen, and to understand. And that is what was my experience. People had a chance to look, to listen, and to understand.
Yes, and look, listen, and understand that we're going to take a break and we're going to be right back with more Brunch, a Taste of Tobago. More with Shakeil when we return. See you guys. And we are back with Brunch, a Taste of Tobago. And let me just tell you, this young man seated here today, his reputation precedes him because he's been doing so much for so long, internationally, regionally, locally. And I was just saying that I love the fact that I get a chance to let you in and let you get to know our sons and daughters who are doing wonderful things. So Shakeil, welcome back to Brunch, a Taste of Tobago. And we were talking about our identities. We were talking about how important it is to know who you are, know your culture, know your history, and know that you must take pride and honor in being a Tobagonian, in being an Afro-Caribbean artist or expressionist or whatever the adjective or term is right about now.
Yeah.
So going into academia, you were speaking about some of the persons that you would have met who would have known nothing, absolutely nothing about even where Tobago is on the map. because there are still persons who don't. You
Right.
say, where are you from? Well, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and we say it so proper. And then they say, which part of Trinidad are you from?
Yeah.
So it's something that you always have to constantly get the terms correct, draw the lines where they should be drawn, being proud of your country, but also they're two separate islands with completely different narratives
Yeah.
to each. And so I'm sure you got that. You're from Trinidad.
Yeah.
Which part of Trinidad? And then you have to do all the explaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was ideally one of those instances because Florida, they have a bit of that diaspora culture. So you find a lot of Caribbean people there. So for the persons, I remember joining the Caribbean Student Association, and that became kind of like the drive to let the rest of the student population know where the Caribbean is, what we do as a people. So identity in all spheres and forms, be it cultural or otherwise, it is not new to me. Even in my experience of national representation at different forums, the Cari Festa, World Travel Market, it has always been about pushing and highlighting and making notice of the Caribbean, particularly Tobago, and what we do and who we are as a people, and always sharing that with the rest of the world.
Definitely. And World Travel Market, guys, was a huge buzz. Let me tell you, every day, everything and anything Tobago was on the
Display,
spotlight.
yeah.
And I love the fact that your panel, we had so many young persons there.
Yeah.
And so we had that invigorating type of energy. And I remember looking at some of the forums that you guys did. And I was so proud of you. Oh my gosh, I felt like a proud aunt. I felt like, yes, 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 yes. If I did not know anything about Tobago, I definitely know now. And I'm going to go there.
Right.
I'm going to save my money and I'm going to go. Yeah? Tell me, what was that? What was that like for you?
Well, I mean, it was all about, advancing the island's tourism product. And what way better to contribute to it by telling the rest of the world about Tobago's culture and its festivals. And primarily that was my role and function as the movement and dance coordinator there. One, to lend support in that regard by the cultural display, which I would have assisted in putting together. And then also just being there at the booth for persons that maybe have questions or want to know more about the festivals and what we do to provide an immersive experience to tourists once they come to the space. The tourism industry is constantly evolving, and we always have to be looking for unique ways to incite persons to visit here. And one of the positions or the stands that Tobago took was to speak more to the culture, the festivals, the people, and that ability to create an immersive experience to the traveler once they come to the shores. So it was a lot about that, and again, at the bulk, at the very core of that was cultural identity as a person, how we respond to things as human beings, our way of life on the island, how you can engage and be a part of that, and it was really, really a fulfilling experience for me because again, it lent to the work that I already do, but also granted me new perspectives within a particular industry that I function in to develop new ideas and to always be creative about what I do, especially when people are thinking about coming to see what we do and to be a part of what we do.
And I think most of the times being an ambassador just kind of happens naturally. It's like you get to the space and spontaneously it happens. Somebody makes a comment, somebody does not know where Tobago is, somebody, and it's always that kind of from the pot into the fire type of thing, and you just have to morph into that ambassador.
Yeah, you are in a constant mode of representation.
Yes.
Constant, you have to look at how you speak, you have to look at how you look, you have to be able to be engaging, you always have to correct the misconceptions and misperceptions of what Tobago is or where the island is. And And I have a lot of fun doing it.
Yes.
I have a lot of fun letting people know that we are 116 square miles of luscious beauty, wild vegetation, enormous cultural history,
There you go.
good food, good drink, people that know to have a good time. Come visit the festivals, come be a part of the community life, come go to the beach, come do all the
All
things
of
that we
that.
have
Yes.
installed. You know, I am never out of wit when it comes to representing and letting people know that Tobago is the ideal place to be, and that Tobago is a place on the map,
Yes.
you know, and that Tobago has a lot to offer.
Definitely. And being an educator also comes naturally. It comes with so much responsibility because you have to make sure that what you're telling people is the right thing. You have to make sure your data is correct, your research is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people always have misconceptions. I have seen it so many times. And you constantly have to make sure that you're ready. It's always this form of readiness that you're supposed to have.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of the reasons why I also got into tutoring. Um, you know, I think that as an educator, a big thing or the core tenet of educating is the access to the information.
Definitely.
And you know, just in the whole idea of bridging the gap and you know connecting past and present to, with hopes to inspire future generations, is about creating that access. And you know, once I was given the opportunity to begin tutoring in the Pembroke community by Miss Karen Berkeley Charles, you know, it was about how can I take the excitement of youth and marry it with the information of the elders, so that
Yes.
one person could develop an appreciation for the arts and culture, one could develop an appreciation for who they are as a Tobagonian, as a Caribbean national, as a descendant of Africans, and you know, how could we have this become something that is long standing, that is sustainable, you know, and that my work has always been centered in creating the access, even with having the opportunity to study outside and to travel and to be a part of different cultural initiatives. You know, I always bring that information back and bring it back and share it, whether it's through my choreography, whether it's through my workshops, so that people who may not have the opportunity to see what I've seen or participate in the things that I've participated in, they have the opportunity to share
Right.
in that experience.
Yes.
So it's always about access. It's always about community, because if we intend for traditions and legacies to live on, we must be able to build community. And that is a vital part of the work that we do as artists. It's always about inspiring the people that we work with in creating performances for audiences to live inside.
Yes.
Doing things so that it constantly sparks conversation and provoke thought, because at the end of the day, what I may have a particular information, you may have particular information. The thing about our culture is that it's based upon its experience, and the way I experience something may not be the way you experience it.
Yes.
But what we have the opportunity to do through providing access is to share those perspectives, find the common denominator, and use that as the tool for understanding who we are and what we do and why we need to preserve and retain the culture and the heritage.
Yeah, and you know, retain. I love the fact that you use that word because it's so important. You have to be able to, as you said, marry these important factors. You have the history, you have the wisdom, you have the knowledge, you have the understanding. But so many times you have to implement that. You have to be so innovative, you have to be so accommodating, so exciting, so that the young people want to join
Yeah.
and be a part of it.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing about the work that I do. I think one of the things that we take for granted is that culture is changing, culture, because the world is changing. With
Definitely.
the advent of technology, a lot of different things are in place. We have social media, and we have to look at, with the change in culture, the things that people develop an affinity to, and how can we accept and appreciate our cultural heritage and lineage and legacy, but also bring it up to speed and bring it up to times. Not forgetting who we are, not forgetting where we come from, not forgetting the tradition and the practices, but being innovative enough to find ways again of access, so that persons who have not had the opportunity to live it in its traditional phase can experience it. And that is what we do, especially at the Tobago Performing Arts Company. We try to give access to film, so we find innovative ways to show culture or represent the culture through film, represent it through emerging technologies within dance and music and the theater and the drama. Because one of the things that we recognize now, because a lot of young persons who are doing CSEC and CAPE, in the theater arts program, they come to us to do the interviews there. A portion of it where they have to interview a practitioner. And one of the things that we have to recognize is that they want the information, but the information somehow is very difficult to get.
Yes.
So as part of our mandate within the company, we have been on a drive of making sure that the information is accessible and that the information is there so that they could have it. So when we bring trainers in, one out of the days of the week that the trainer is there, we have a public workshop. So the people on the outside could come in and experience the things that we are experiencing on the inside. We have now embarked on creating a catalog with information about the folk dances and so forth. And these are things that are going to come on stream in the very near future, because we see the importance, we see the value in ensuring that those that are a part of the culture today can experience our traditions in ways that they grow affinity to. Creating dance challenges on social media, using the folk as the impetus of movement and having people follow it and post it. These are some of the things that we could do and explore to ensure that, culture doesn't die. It doesn't mean that it has to stay in that realm of what we like to call the old time days. And I mean, we still respect it and we still honor it, but at the same time we try to make sure that people have access to it in modern times, and that they could be a part of it and respect it, appreciate it, but also be able to live it in their own way within the time that they are living.
Definitely. And Shakeil, it's so wonderful talking with you. I could sit here and talk with you all day. But unfortunately, we are out of time.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to have you back. I have so many questions. I have so many things are going on. What's next for Shakeil? All those questions have to be answered the next time you come back.
Yeah.
So from our family to yours, we wish you blessings, peace, love, light, and success.
Thank you very much, and same to you.
Thank you. We're going to be right back with more Brunch, a taste of Tobago. But before we do that, guys, our trivia question for today: in what village in Tobago would you find Barbados Bay? The answer at the end of the show. We'll be right back with more Brunch.